Hello again to another version of my tutorials Sewing Made Easy. I promised you in my last video that I would show you some more ideas and variations on standing up colors. And I like to keep my promise, and that's why I'm going to show you a lovely variation of one of those colors right now. Here I will show you the standing up color variation, which I added on the back, the same as on the last one, a little extra part, so it has an extra effect again for the back. In the front, the color will go all the way to the edge of the placket on both sides, underneath and the top one. And I show you how you can make the pattern to add this lovely little color corner onto this standing up color here. This is will be cut in one piece. But I show you this exactly how to do it. And I will do it in two different colors, so you can really follow the tutorial very well as it will be then.
First of all, we start with some cutting. So take your normal pattern from your shirt or your blouse and cut the back piece and the two front pieces. Then cut the two plackets for the left and the right side for the front in whatever widths you wish. As an example, I cut mine here on 8 centimeter widths, the length of course of your whole front, which I will now iron in half. So I have 4 centimeters, and one of those edges I will iron over again. That gives me my finished size of 3 centimeter widths for my placket. On the plackets as well, I iron some interfacing on, and the ironing should be done by you exactly as you can see it right here on the picture. The not ironed over edge of the placket you stitch now onto the left side on your two front parts as shown on the picture. Now turn your parts over, fold the ironed over placket onto your front and stitch them down neatly. Take your back and take your two fronts, the good sides lying on top of each other, and close the shoulders. Go to your ironing board and iron the shoulder seams towards the back. Fold your shirt or blouse now exactly in half, as you see it here on the picture. Take your tape measure and measure now the exact width of the color for making the pattern for the color. Check again when you put this on top of each other if you got in your back middle a little mark, a little cut, because you definitely will need that when we will be stitching the color in. So put it exactly on your table, totally together, and now measure from the finished front edge 1 centimeter away from your cut edge, because you have to measure from exactly in that position where your seam will be. So if you have 1 centimeter's allowance, that is in the position you got to measure. So my first measurement from my finished front to my shoulder is 15.3 right here. Write that measurement down, because it is important not to forget the exact 15.3 here in my case. Then continue measuring towards your back middle where your fold over is. And that gives me a total half width, because we only got half of the part lying here, of 25.4 centimeters. And that is the next measurement that I write down. So now we measured the front part, we measured the whole width, but now we should also measure from the shoulder the exact width that goes to the middle to the fold over from the back. And there I have 10.1 centimeters. These three measurements are very important to me as I want to do the pattern. So check again if you're not sure, because it's very important to really have the right millimeter kind there. Exactly where your seam will be. That's where you have to measure, not on the edge of your cutting. Don't forget that and write it down. So put your blouse aside and take the paper where you like to draw the pattern on. Start by doing a right angled line, which is the bottom line for your color right now. And we have to think, how high do we want this particular color to be? The width we do in a moment as well. So we start by measuring the height first of all. The finished height of my color is supposed to be 3 centimeters. That's what I want it to be. So on both sides I mark the 3 centimeters up and I connect those 2 points that I just marked in a slight line going across, as this will not be my finished cut line, which I will have later on. Now I look at the measurements that I just took. You can write in the middle, I got an HM there, which stands in German for hintere Mitte, which means the center back. So that's what you got to write on, center back, because this will be the fold over that goes right there in that position. Now I look at my measurements that I just took, and I start by first of all to put my 10.1 right there, which you remember was from the shoulder measured to the center back. And then I take my 25.4 and put another mark right there. So the first one, the 10.1, is my mark for my shoulder position, and the 25.4 is on the front, on the finished edge of my placket. As I want this particular color to really be nice, tight on the neck, I'm now drawing a 2.5 centimeter mark onto my pattern. And with my tailor's ruler, I will now connect this new made point on 2.5 up towards my shoulder mark that I have on the bottom line, because this will be the new line for my bottom of my color. And make sure you don't get no edges into this drawing. You got to slightly even it out if you didn't get a nice curve done right there. The higher you will draw your line right there, the longer this particular line will get. Therefore, if you've forgotten your measurement, maybe you like to measure it again from the front edge to the shoulder, and then just check again from your shoulder point the length of that line, because you will find, depending on how high you went with your drawing, that this curve will be slightly longer now. So put a new mark of this, in my case 15.3 mark, and you will see it's about 2-3 millimeters farther inward. If I would do a right angle upwards from my originally point, that would be in the wrong position then. Otherwise you will have problems stitching the color into your neck part in, because it's too long, and then you got a problem sewing right away. So make a new line going upwards, and you see I'm slightly inward. It made that color a little bit look-wise shorter, although it is not shorter because of the curve. So from the new mark that we have, you got to draw the 3 centimeters up again, because that's our finished width of the color. Take the mark from the shoulder upwards. So again, you know, with the new tailor's ruler there, with this round, you want to make the same kind of round curve there on the top line as well, because now you can see already how your color really will be. And also there, even those out, because if you got edges in that, it will be difficult for sewing and it's not exact. It should be really a nice smooth curve that goes over into the straight part right there. Now you have to decide if you like to have a corner on the front where your button will be above the placket, or if you would like to make a little curve there. I will draw a little curve there because I think that looks nicer and smoother for the blouse and for the shirt. But this is all up to you, so make your own design if you want a corner or a curve, if it's a flat curve or a very, very high drawn curve, all up to you. If your placket will be 3 centimeters finished width as mine, the middle of it would be 1.5 centimeters. And that is exactly where I want this little extra color that comes out in the front should be. I show you right here what I mean. This is your 2 plackets which go exactly on top of each other. So the middle of that is 1.5 centimeters. And that's above where I want the extra corner color to come out. Because here you see that's how I will be stitching the color on exactly to the edge. And there in the middle should be my extra pointed little corner color coming out. And that's where I got to continue drawing right now. That's why I mark it 1.5 centimeters inward from this new corner that I had there. The next decision I have to make is how far do I want this top color to run over. And I want it to just go slightly over my shoulder. Not any farther, because in the back I've shown you that I will put this tiny little color extra in. So what I do here is I will draw in a right angle from my original line that I went up there, another right angled line. So just go parallel to that line over onto your 1.5 centimeter that you marked on the roundabout that you see up there. That's exactly. And just draw it up there. Although I'll show you later, this is not necessarily has to be done like that. You can also reshape this totally, what I'm doing now next. You can make it round, you can make a flat corner, or you can put it farther inward. But I'll tell you more about it later. So draw this line up now, 1.5 centimeters from the other edge. And decide if you want it to finish out approximately just a centimeter above my shoulder point. That's what I decided on. So I decided I want my corner to be 7 centimeters high. So I mark exactly my 7 centimeters from that corner on, from the finished edge, from the actual color actually, like you just saw. And now I got to do a nice curve right here with my special ruler. I try this one first. No, that wouldn't be right. So I'll choose another curve. You have to try exactly which curve you like to draw. You can also do it by hand first, a little bit with a pencil, and then decide to change it. So I'll look at that now. Do I like that? Okay, I think that's all right. And you can see I've slightly gone over my shoulder point right there. That's how I want it to run out. And I have to even it out a little bit more as well. So let me just draw it exactly perfectly so I can really see it and you can see it as well. And also here, don't put any corners in there, because that's where my little extra part's supposed to go in as well, and it's all got to run smoothly into each other. As this little extra standing up color will be put like that there in the back in the middle, and it will run into this other color then just beautifully. On this drawing now, you should draw yourself your centimeter seam allowance all the way around on. As I'm got quite a good eyesight for this, I just exactly do it here without doing my drawing. But please draw it first and measure it again if you want to be sure with what you're doing. But as you can see here, I'm cutting this piece out exactly with my centimeter seam allowance that I need later on for cutting and for sewing. All right, that's my color totally finished here. Now, very important, do not forget to make a little mark right there for you, because that again is the point you will need later on when you stitch it in for your shoulders to fit correctly. So that's totally finished, but now I also need a little pattern for my back extra piece that I want. And I want it to be 8 centimeters on this half piece finished length. That means I got to do my drawing on 16. And I do a right ankle, just very simple. You could even cut this if you wish without any pattern. But as I want to show you how you can do it, I will show you really here step by step. Otherwise it wouldn't be my promise telling you I'm showing you a video step by step. In case if you think I rattle on too much and talk too much for you, then speed it up or turn my tone off and only watch it. But I would just like to be very precise with things, because I know there's always somebody out there that hasn't done any of this. So I would like to explain it so you might be able to understand it. Anyway, you saw now I want the finished width to be 1 centimeter. So I got my 16 centimeter length here, my 1 centimeter, and I put a little corner on there because I don't want it to be totally straight going up in the back, but you could also there make a curve out of it. And again, you can see here I'm adding my 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around on because we need it. And the centimeter drawn in the middle, that will be our finished part for the back middle. But as I said, you can do this round, but then I would do the other corner on the actual big color also in round. And that's how this piece will go into there. That one I cut in the full length. So when I fold it over, you can see or imagine that's how it will be stitched in to my color later. So that's all my pattern. So what do we have to do now is we have to cut the main material, the interfacing, iron it on, and so on. So I show you the next steps. As I'm doing this color tutorial in 2 colors, you can see here of each part that I need, I cut 1 piece of every color and the interfacing to go with it. And I did a rough cut for the moment because now I first go to the ironing board and press on my interfacing before I do the fine cut. So here's a little extra explanation on the color. You've seen on the white shirt in the beginning that this one does not go straight down. It goes more sideways. But on my actually blue part tutorial, you can see that it's going straight down in the middle in the neck. So all you have to do is when you do this pattern, you change the direction a little bit of that top part color piece. As an example, if you want it more to be like the white shirt, to go more sideways the color part, you do a drawing on any width away from that edge as you wish. You can even make 2 different colors of it right away. Now check how this folds over when you just fold it over. I just put a little cut in here so I can show you what I mean. When I just turn this piece back now, then you can see your color automatically will not close in the front middle. It will go more sideways, as on the white shirt in the beginning. I repeat that because you can look at that again, then you exactly see what I mean. And also in this position, it's your design. Maybe you don't want a corner at all. Maybe you like to make a little round curve right here. And that is all the same pattern part actually on the bottom, because a bottom piece you cannot change anything about. But on this top piece, you can change any way you want to any design you like to make it. So I hope you know what I meant by saying this. So let's continue with our actual tutorial. Take the cutting from your little back piece and close 3 sides, whichever side you want to be on the top. So those 3 sides you got to close. Then trim the corners slightly and turn the part inside out. If you try to stitch now this little part quite exactly even clean on both sides, you can still afterwards decide which side you would like to use for being on the outside on your finished color later on. I did it that way, so I can still decide which way do I want. Now, the bottom on your outside color, which is in my case the blue, please iron 1 centimeter over totally along the bottom. And in case if you did 2 colors for this shirt, for this color, then you can check now before you stitch it up which side you want to be shown on the outside. Will it be like that? Or do you want to turn that part around as you stitched it evenly on both sides and have it that way facing? So that decision is not made yet until you decide. As I wanted really mixed colors, I will put the 2 colored on top of this now and stitch it briefly on the edge on, and then close the color on the 3 sides up. Make sure you got all those cut-ins for the middle, on the back, on the little piece, and on all of your color pieces. Very important. And here you see already my stitched up color prepared for later on to put it in. And you can see I put this one opposite colors inside that top edge. You can see my little seam there. And you can see my cuts that I'm exactly in the middle. I only stitched this on about 3 millimeters because I don't want the seam to show out later. And I've been closing all those sides. And you see the ironed over edge for my blue one, I also stitched down the way I ironed it. Now before you continue cutting the edges off, make sure that the lengths of your 2 sides of that color pointed part is exactly the same lengths, because if that is different lengths and you got it stitched over then and finished the shirt, you will regret that you haven't checked it first. So check that it's exactly, maybe you even make a pattern and draw it on first before you stitch it. That again is all up to you. And you can see here when I stitch a pointed color like that, I do one slightly stitch sideways, because that gives me a much better and tidier corner than if I would really stitch it cornerwise. And now you got to really cut this off well. That means you cannot only cut the top edge, you got to start a little bit lower down, really go smooth sideways, go even around the corner, and go a little bit down, because you got to imagine that all the side seam that is there, it's got to go in that little part in the inside, in that color in. So if you got too much standing over, as an example, if you would only cut the top off like that, that would make a terrible corner at the end, because you can see, fold this over, and you can see all this material would have to be in the middle of that pointed color. That is not going to work, and the color is really going to look terrible. So go even around the corner and go down the side a little bit further to make sure this will all go in this nice little part of your color. And try not to get any edges in your cutting. It's really got to be smooth, because you see that as well. Now on this particular corner, you have to cut in. Otherwise you cannot turn it. It would pull and it doesn't work. You got to cut it in exactly onto practically your stitch that is there. But of course make sure not to cut that thread through. So you can give it a little check if you like that particular corner. If it comes out nice, ribble it, or take something nice pointed without pushing the corners through. That looks all right to me at the moment. But we also have to cut a little bit from that round out that you got there on that part. See, there I show you again that I stitched down the iron over part. Now do exactly on this curve also a slightly cut out, but don't go all the way through to the bottom, because if you got no material left there, you will find it very hard to push in the seam later on when you stitch the top down onto the blouse or the shirt. So leave the material on the bottom. It is necessary only cut the top curve, as you can see it right here as I did it. So to my opinion, to stitch in the color might be the most difficult thing for you to do. So I show you this one directly how I will do it. Put the right side or the good side down on your machine so the left side, the inside, is facing you. Now you have this part that is not ironed over, and that's the one we're going to stitch on now. Make sure you got all your rounds and your corners really evenly pushed out. And now put these two edges, the front edge from your placket and the turned over edge from your color, exactly edge on the front, and start your centimeter sewing. Look right away where is your shoulder. Where's your shoulder cut in the color? They got to be on top of each other. If they're not, then you better stop right away there and look again what might be wrong somewhere, because otherwise you really have a big problem to meet the color together in the middle with your part, with your blouse. So that looks very good to me. So I just continue 1 centimeter. There I'm in the back, middle, in the center. And the shoulder seam I mentioned earlier on, I iron towards the back. So I also stitch down towards the back, because that's the way you should do. And again here, there's my next little mark, my cut, which goes exactly on top of my shoulder. And I'm getting towards the end already right here. Look again to your last point where you got to finish that particular seam, as these ends got to be exactly on top of each other to get a real smooth, perfect finish on the front where your plackets are. Hold this very well down and stitch exactly into that corner where they both meet and where the other turned over, ironed over color is. Right there, you see that. Stop the video in case if you want to see it much more clearly. That's the way it looks already now. Now I suggest start on the shoulder with the next seam. Don't start on the front, because it's much more difficult to not start if you don't start on the shoulder. As you got your mark there, it's no problem. You put this exactly on top of your shoulder again, and make sure you're covering that seam that is underneath there, because in case if that is not the same color, it will really look messy if it shows out. So always cover it just by a touch of a millimeter. It's not even a full millimeter, but it won't show out. And now, before I even get to the end there, decide which way you want to lie those seams inside. Push out again the round that you got there. Put in that ironed over centimeter that you prepared earlier on, and stitch evenly towards your front. And make sure again, don't let that seam show out. It looks terrible when you do. Or you got to put a big bow tie over it. Okay, that works as well, of course. Push it all in. Make sure, if you see there's still something there, take your scissors, closed of course, not opened up, and push it neatly in. And now you can see, you can really nice stitch towards the end. Leave your needle stuck in the material when you turn it. And now check it if you wish, if you like it like that. Now carefully with little stitches, go around the curve, go into that little corner of yours, and stitch up your color part nice to the edge. And also there you can, if you wish, make a slight little stitch going across. It doesn't have to be a stitch pointed into that corner if it's such a steep corner like I got there. And now put this one out of the way, although if you have a different model you could also stitch it down. That gives it again a different effect. But I decided I wanted standing up. If somebody got in the neck real nice short shaved off hair, this looks fantastic in the back. But as I said, you can also turn it over and stitch it down. Total different model then for you. But make sure underneath that you not ironing any creases in. It's got to be lying really flat, as if it's the proper side. both sides should actually look exactly alike. Again, here I'm in that corner. One little stitch across, you saw then how I did it. And I'm going down this corner. And here, I'm still far away, as you can see. But if I'm stitching too close, then I can't properly push this in. And there's this little thread. I cut it off because if that little thread hangs out when I'm finished, it's so difficult to cut it off neatly. So I do it before. Then when I'm finished with that seam, I'm finished. We say end control. The end control is finished. The part is done. It needs a little ironing over, and I'm finished, and I'm satisfied, and I've done a nice job. Here we go around. All these bits I pushed in earlier on, as you saw. Again here, I pushed it a little bit again to make sure I don't want anything whatsoever sticking out, and put it nicely flat down. All right, I could already look now, if I'm not sure, where is my shoulder, where is my little cut from my shoulder. Make sure your color doesn't pull or push anywhere. It should be lying flat as if you just ironed one piece of material flat on your ironing board. Well, I'm getting towards the end, as you can see. That's approximately my center back where I am. And there you see already, here's my shoulder where I earlier on started. Sometimes I look underneath to make sure I don't have any threads from the start hanging there, which is the case here. So also there, I cut that off first. Then I'm not stitching it in anywhere and got to pull it out again. That I wouldn't like. And maybe you noticed that in the beginning when I started stitching on that shoulder, I didn't go back and forth with the machine, because it's always nicer if when you come around like that, you just stitch over another 3-4 stitches and you don't even see it. Now you can go on the ironing board and either iron that edge over, or what I prefer, because the color always will lie much, much better, if you just there where it will be folded over, put one line of stitches through. Just 2-3 stitches back and forth. Now best take a little pattern, any pattern that you got, doesn't matter. And you remember, there was our shoulder, the way we did the drawing from the pattern. And I went over approximately 1 centimeter farther over the shoulder towards the middle back. And that's how I'm going to be stitching this little curve. You can see in a moment I pull the pattern towards that part where I will finish with my seam. And then this will lie over perfectly after I've been to the ironing board, as you will see when I put the shirt part on the doll then. Of course I got to do the same on the other side, that's clearly. I shouldn't even have to mention that. And also there I started about 1 centimeter behind the shoulder, as you can see, and I put my pattern on, which is a straight pattern, so I'm not in this corner yet where I want to be. But while I'm stitching, I pull it in that position and I get a nice slight round curve that runs evenly with the bottom of my seam from my color. Now clean your last little threads off. Look at your job. Do you like it? Are you satisfied? Then go to your iron. Finish it. Try it on. Put the buttonholes in. Put the buttons in. And you got a new blouse or a new shirt.
And right here I like to show you the result of the finished color with the extra color corners that I made. First of all, I would like to add to this again, as I showed you how to make the pattern that I was drawing in a right angle, this edge on here earlier on. But you always have the chance, if you say, oh, I don't want it so steep going down, you can make it much, much shorter by just changing this area. Either you do a different angle here, or you maybe want a round instead of a pointed corner there on the color. All up to you. Now decide if you like to wear a bow tie in it, or if you would like to put some nice chain into it, and you got a finished blouse, a finished shirt, as nobody else has it. And also here, think about it if you want to use different materials and colors, or if you like to do it all in one color, it will also look just beautiful, and nobody else will have this particular blouse and shirt than you. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe me. It's always such a difficult word. Subscribe me and give me a thumb up, please. I'm looking forward to your comments. Bye for now. Here's Lilo.